Now, let's talk about the discussion point.
Right.
Because last week we sort of did a little teaser where we said we're going to talk about the ethics, the morality, the safety side of passing people on Alpine routes. And let's give this a bit of background, because this is something that you brought up with me because you experienced a bit of a queue situation, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's we live in Chamonix. It's the middle of summer. There's obviously a lot of people wanting to climb, the amazing routes. So yeah, I just got caught up in a queue basically on an Alpine route. And there was a lot of stuff going on, but in a nutshell, what we understand of the situation is that some people in front weren't letting other faster teams pass, and like there was no way through. Like you're on a route, in some way you have to like go over on a belay or like stand on a ledge and let people pass, and they were just letting people, the other teams pass. Which my question to you was, honestly, like, you've been climbing out here for the past 10 years, like, ethically, morally, what do you do?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and we'll talk about why. But first of all, I wanted to shout someone out. We'll actually call someone out here, because Alt Geneva, I think that's your name, put up a pretty stupid comment, to be honest, which he said, this kind of question you can only hear for someone who's never been on an Alpine route. Grow up, Matt. This is a nonsense subject for discussion. Alt, I disagree. I never usually call out comments because I usually ignore the silly ones. Yeah. This one kind of got me a little bit because, number one, I've been climbing out here for 10 years. I'm not an expert, but I do know about Alpine climbing a little bit. I've done a fair few routes. Number two, I do think it's important to talk about this because, okay, we were chatting to someone the other day that you and me went climbing with, who was saying when you come from a sport climbing background, let's say, there's different sort of things in an Alpine situation that you might not know. If you're used to just cragging where you're queuing for routes, it's tricky. And when you're trying to move into a different type of genre of climbing, there's whole types of things you don't necessarily know. You don't want to annoy people and you don't want to be dangerous. Generally for me, right, it becomes a couple of things. I was always told that speed in the Alps is super important. Like, if you're not quick, you can die. It kills you because it's thunderstorms. You want to be in and out as early and as quickly as possible. Generally, you can pass people on Alpine routes if it's safe to do so. And this is much easier if you get something like a ridge route, like the Cosmiques, for example, okay? And you're not at a QE section like the abseils. Speak to the people. If they're okay with you moving around them, move around them. If it's obvious you can do it, it's okay generally, but just don't be an idiot about it. Don't climb over their rope. Don't haul on their gear. Don't clip their gear. Stay out of the way as much as possible. And usually people will be like, fair enough, you're faster, go through. It's very annoying if someone gets jumped and then it turns out that group who jumped you is super slow and you get stuck behind them. That drives me crazy. But the situation you had was tricky because it was an Alpine rock route, right?
It was an Alpine rock route, and the people in front, this has been passed through, and it was like a really funny situation in the end, and whatever, we still had a good day out in the mountains. But the people in front apparently were just using nuts.
Instead of the bolts?
No, instead of cams.
Okay.
And whatever bolts of pitons were there. So it was like inappropriate gear, maybe a bit of an experience.
And they didn't have a nut key, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay. So they couldn't remove the nuts. It was a massive queue. Now, that's trickier because it's like pitched, right?
Yes, but like pitched on ledges.
Yeah, so it's tricky to maneuver around. So you couldn't climb to the left or right, for example, because there's the line.
This was like behind a lot of teams. We were probably like the 5th or 6th.
Yeah. That's harder because honestly, the Alps, especially at the moment,
it's busy. It's just busy. It's the reality of things.
Yeah, if you go on a weekend, you're likely to queue, so go super early.
Yeah.
And the reason I said ethically or morally in the little thing is because I think there's that worry of like, oh, should I jump people? Because, if you did that, let's say at a crag, you'd be that idiot who jumped in front of someone at the crag unless you asked. The real answer is you have to play it by ear. You have to see the situation. But generally, yes, you can pass people on an Alpine route if it's safe to do so. Do have a chat with them. If they're a guided team, maybe not a good idea because the guides are trying their best.
Then you do talk to the guide, on certain occasions, like if they're having like a client that's struggling, like you do talk to the guide, and even in the comments, like generally that was the concession of like ask, talk about it, and then just don't be a certain word and pass them or don't pass them.
Exactly. So do it safely. So look, that's our opinion. That's the opinion we've got from our experiences. It's a difficult subject. It's nuanced. That's our discussion point. Do let us know what you think down below.